everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Ramblings of a Designer podcast. This is a weekly podcast where we talk about the latest in graphic design news from around the web. I'm your host, Adam Zepeda. I'm a freelance designer from the San Francisco Bay Area. I specialize in visual, UI design with a little bit of illustration. I like to give companies character. And every week I'm joined by my co-host, Terry. How's it going, Terry?
Hey, Adam. Thanks again. As Adam said, my name is Terry. I'm a UX UI designer from the Bay Area, and I help bridge the gap between products and their end users.
Oh, yeah. So every week we like to start off with how our week was since we last talked. Terry, how was your week?
I am so excited. I
Whoa.
finally passed 1.6 of my CSS and HTML homework assignment. It only took me a month.
Yay.
but I passed it. And my tutor, his name is William. I'll do a shout out. He's actually on vacation right now. And he's been very, very patient, and because he will tell me like, oh, this is, you do this. And I'm like, oh, where is it? I can't find it. And then I do a screenshot, and it's like literally holding my hand. But I was able to actually download of all of these extensions to help with accessibility. So I was very proud of myself. I know folks out there that are probably already web developers are probably go, oh my God, that's so silly. But I'm sorry. Yes. So I was very happy about that. And then I've just been reading a couple books and just reading articles and enjoying this crazy weather that's been cold, and it rained a couple days ago and then sun. And spring is coming, or summer with allergies. So kind of fighting that a little bit. But other than that, not bad. How about you, Adam?
Yeah, same. So the weather definitely kept me indoors. Haven't been doing much going out and exploring lately. This week I've been pretty busy. Just, it's a lot of little things have been coming in, working on some freelance work that is well, at least it's sent back to the client, so I don't have to worry about it for the near future. And so yeah, just been doing little things here and there. Haven't been reading a whole lot lately, haven't been drawing lately, so I've been very disappointed by that. But I'm still waiting for my schedule to get kind of back on track. It's still just been a little off, but little by little. I'm not in any rush, but it would be nice just to have a nice calm schedule for a bit. Yeah, that's about it. So let's get into the news. Terry, what do you have this week?
Okay. Well, excuse me. Since I was so excited about accessibility, so I have
All right.
an article about making the case for accessibility, how to convince your team to invest in more accessible design. And this was written by Susanna, I would say Zarowski, if I actually...
That's close enough.
Okay. So anyway, going forward, I love the whole illustrations that, you see the Google Plus and it's with Google Design, but she gives tips of like, number one, make it personal, make it stick. And she gives strategies of how to do it. And number two, make it universal and flexible. So again, I don't want to go too much into it because I think it's a very meaty article that, at least for me, I had to read it of a couple of times because she gives really great examples that we don't really see a lot of, like captions, like closed captions on TV or online videos doesn't only benefit the hearing impaired, but actually it helps in noisy places such as bars or restaurants or airports, as she pointed out. And she's really, really right about that, because because sometimes you want to watch something, but then again, if you're a parent or and your kids are sleeping, you can't have the sound on. But if they have captions, you can still do some work or watch the TED Talk or something like that. So I always think that's pretty neat to actually have. And number 3, and this is the last one. She said about small changes, they make a big impact, which it's awesome. As she has this visual of rockets, like number 1, closed captions, all text. Number 2, color contrast. 3, screen reader tests automatically audits. And she goes into more about that. So again, I think it's really important to actually learn more about accessibility and then how it works with your understanding and work with other teams as well. So, Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I think in order to get even just helping having the accessibility option or making sure all your design is accessible helps in every scenario, right? Making sure a screen reads at any the smaller size helps just catch the why can't I form sentences? It helps cast a wider net, right? And so I think there's I don't think there's that much for how to convince your team for accessibility design. I think just informing them that, like, hey, the reason why I made this decision is that it's more accessible. The contrast helps better. The size is a little better. I'm pretty sure your team will be more receptive to those decisions. Just fall back on using why you did it and giving a good reason and letting them know, hey, this is I upped the contrast on all these paragraphs because nobody can, we can get more people to read this because it's more accessible, and then that kind of sells itself.
Cool. Yeah. So short and sweet, Adam. So what do you have?
What do I have? So I want to talk about a little bit of dystopian futures, right? So you know how everyone's always saying that we got to worry about the robot uprising and robots are going to come and dominate us and whatever. I'm more worried about the AI uprising, right? So Samsung, especially this week, we found out that Samsung, they created their AI, they released their AI labs, and what they're showing is that with just one single picture, they can get the depth, I guess, needed to map a video face pattern to it, and you're able to get these convincing looking video clips off of just like one single picture. And so they did a few examples here and there in their in this GIF that they have on the article. They show Marilyn Monroe. They show sort of a Mona Lisa. I don't know if that's the best one, but they have Salvador Dali. They have Einstein, and it's just this idea of what they're able to do now and what we're going towards. It's a kind of a scary thought when you think about like designing for AI and for future kind of technologies. It gets a little there's a big gray area when you're talking about these kind of new AI technologies, like how we're talking about how this face does not exist, how it's a computer generated face. In the future, like all our assets can be kind of generated dynamically. It'll be interesting if the image, let's say you're going onto a site and the site had sort of data on you already, maybe like ethnic data of some sort, maybe you used your camera to figure out kind of who you were, then it could generate all the images to kind of relate to you. That'd be kind of weird. I'm worried about what the implications are from having technology that we can get so close to generating video and audio that sound and look like you without having to do much from AI learning. I worry that what if what if we can't use video as evidence in the future because we know video can be doctored in this AI kind of technology? What if we can't use images, or we can get people to say whatever we want, however we want it? It's just getting kind of weird. And so I don't know. Do you have any idea of I don't know. How do you feel about AI and these deep fakes that you've been seeing online, and Samsung's AI technology that's coming out in the future? Do you have any input?
Well, actually, I did see it in my feed when I was browsing through. I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool," and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of scary." As you were saying, because a lot of this cool stuff is kind of cool, but if it falls into the wrong hands, or people design for good instead of designing for dark, so it's gonna. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie, it is exciting, but at the same time, you're right. It is kind of scary because, I mean, how can they tell the fake with the real, or the real with the fake? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure they're gonna have people with a trained eye that can sniff those things out. I mean, they just have to.
I mean,
So
I already know people kind of have an eye for it as well. Like sometimes it's hard for me to tell when certain images are Photoshop, but people can tell right away, faster than I can. Like they'll say, "Oh, right here it's smoother than the rest," or "These pixels look stretched," and I'm like, "All right, yeah." I mean, but I didn't see it at first glance, and so I can see these videos kind of tricking us maybe at first, or maybe since we're at the beginning of it, we can maybe spot it a little better. Like when you see these images, you can sort of see it distorted face a little bit, right? You can sort of see the distortion.
yeah,
I mean, it's going to get better. Um, but yeah, I mean, you talk about like using this technology for bad. Already they're kind of using this technology to put celebrity faces on inappropriate images or videos, and so that like that's a thing. Especially, well, I don't want to say search for deep fakes, but if you do a search for deep fakes, you already can see pretty terrible things on the internet. Um, but yeah, it's just something that is going to be kind of weird. It's a weird technology. What's the world? I just wonder how our internet experience is going to be like in the future when we're using AI technologies. Like it'll do so much for us that it's just gonna be so weird. Like our images will automatically convert to video. Um, it'll start talking to us in a tone that we can talk to. You know how they have the interactive chat box, so they have the technology to listen and have a conversation with us, even though it's artificial. It's just so our future is going to be so artificial and so crazy.
yeah. I mean, there goes our books. Everything, paper. Maybe paper. We won't have paper anymore, and everything's going to be digital. And I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to get too depressed about it. It's going to be interesting to see what's going to happen. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh well, but yeah, it's just a weird article. It's a interesting. It's definitely a compelling kind of look at what's possible. But we have all these people working on it. Samsung's working on it. Adobe has their own kind of AI that they're working on. Sensei that they released. I think IBM has one. Google obviously has to have something. Um, but yeah, it's insane. But yeah, that's all I got. You can find that article on Fast Company. It's called "Oh No, Samsung Lab AI." Samsung's AI lab can create a video of you from a single still photo. So Terry, what do you got?
Yeah. Basically, what I got, I have two little articles, but I'm going to leave one of them. You guys can check the show notes and see. So, anyways, we're going to go with Why empty states should never be neglected. And this is by Jeremiah Lamb as a 5-minute read. He's just stating empty states are the way to improve the user experience of your product, from onboarding to encouraging user to interact with your app. So I'm going to just read the first line. So he defines what's an empty state. Empty states are screens that in your UI that are not yet filled with information. So that is to say, they are screens that will eventually have content on them when the user completes certain tasks. And when I read that, that is so interesting because, you know, when you're filling out a form or when you're doing any type of interaction, putting in data, doing something, moving something, and sometimes that information, it goes really, really fast, or the action, it goes really, really fast. And sometimes he's right. You know, we don't really think about the empty state and stuff. So basically, he keeps on going on, and then he just states the problem was an empty state is needed to actually refresh because it is inconsistent with which he's right, because rest of the user experience, it's either there or basically it's not there. Like I said, a lot of these actions just happens really, really fast on different things. And basically, he goes down to the article and talking about the best practices of when to use it, how to use it. You can add personality to it, and basically, he really gives some really nice examples. And then he talks about his last thoughts about it. And then at the end of the article, it says, an app empty state is ripe with potential. Design well, an empty state provides visual clues, prompts, educates, and encourages users to invite engagement, which what I just read there, that should be all of our designs of what we are designing for. So, Adam, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, empty states for some cases are inevitable, right? You want your user to, I don't know, get a text, get an email, get a message, but you haven't got any messages yet. So how do you fill up that space? You want them to build an inventory, but how do you get them to know that they can build an inventory? Well, these empty states are a perfect way to solve for that. You can bring your personality in there by doing a great illustration, but it should be very informative with what you want them to do and why it's empty and how you can fill it up and do it all in one screen, you know. So you have the opportunity to have something that's splashy, right, that you don't get throughout the rest of your app, and it'll align with your website, with your campaign that you have as well. So yeah, empty states are inevitable, but we have a great way to solve it. So instructions.
Awesome. Okay, so what is your next article?
Let's see. My next article. So this is a new kind of digital publication, right? It's called Parametric Press. And what it is I guess it's an online digital publication. But the twist is that they try to combine a little bit of everything, right? They're trying to combine web design, visual UX design, interactive design, all kind of in one. And so they have different interesting articles that kind of the whole kind of thing is that they kind of want stuff to be kind of interactive, and you could kind of see an animation, you can click on things, you can kind of do more stuff around it. And so it seems pretty interesting. I like the idea. Right now it's pretty much in just a website format. And when you see the homepage looks pretty awesome. Like it's definitely it's pretty refreshing, kind of like, you know, it's the type of design that you always see in like for classwork, but you never get to implement in the real world, you know, like just big text kind of overlaying over other text, and, you know, vertically aligned or text that's been rotated a couple degrees and a big old rectangular image in the middle, all these kind of things. And so I definitely like what they're trying out, and it'll be definitely interesting to see how they progress with this. And so just wanted to call out the members. The members are Matthew Conlin, who's the editor in chief, Fred Homan, who's the data graphics and editorial person, Victoria Uren, who's the editor, Sarah Stala, who's the UX and editorial, and Andrew Sass, who's the art director. And one of the articles that I wanted to point out that they were talking about is the very first one. It's called Unraveling the JPEG. And this goes pretty in depth into what it takes to display an image. And so when we see a JPEG, we think, oh yeah, it's just a digital photo that we have on our machine. But no, it's much than that. It's pretty much code that's been rendered to display this image, right? It's not like it's a Polaroid that lives kind of in your computer. It's something that's been coded, and it's something that's been kind of encrypted and or rendered, and something that's been kind of something that has to be kind of read by your computer so you can see it. And so when you know that you can actually manipulate it a little bit, right? And so what this article does is it talks about the different ways, it goes into in depth of like how JPEG is formed, and it talks about its compression, and that there's three main forms of compression that a JPEG can go through. And that is one, the chrominance subsampling, two, the discrete cosine transform and quantization, and three, the run length delta and Huffman encoding. Whew. And I'm going to try to make an attempt to kind of explain some of this, although a lot of it went through my head because I am not that smart. But I'll try to explain a little bit about what they're kind of talking about. And so when you talk about chrominance subsampling, they talk about that a lot of the data is actually this type of compression is that it's mainly it deals with the it doesn't use RGB. It uses this other type of code, which is called CBCR, and that stands for Y is the brightness, CB is the relative blueness, and CR is the relative redness. And that a lot of it that it deals with is just kind of the values of color as opposed to RGB, and that's because that's a smaller file size than if you were to go in RGB. There's a lot more to get into it, but that's sort of the general that I got out of it. The next is the discrete cosine transform and quantization. And so this is interesting. This kind of says that all of the images that you see, all these JPEGs that you see, the way that they're formed is there's this pattern of light, of this cosine pattern, and there's 64 unique patterns. And every JPEG that you see is a combination of these patterns put together. Just with these 64 different waves, you're able to form every JPEG imaginable. And so I thought that was really amazing. The way that they describe it is, I believe that it's broken down into 8 bytes, and then within the 8 bytes, you get one of these little patterns. I don't know. It's a little more complicated, but just the idea that every image is formed just by these kind of combinations of patterns of light seems amazing to me. And then from there, the last one is the Huffman delta and Huffman encoding. It's pretty much just what it does is it recognizes repeatable patterns, and it just finds a way to condense those with code. So let's say, for example, the example that they showed is that if you were to show the full image that's black, each byte or each pixel, think about it, would have to be coded individually. So pixel by pixel by pixel by pixel. So what this does, it's just a line of code that says, hey, after this once you get to this point, repeat the rest of it. And so it finds a way to compress and break down a lot of it. There's a lot of extra code that you can kind of eliminate and still have a good working image, and it doesn't affect the image quality. And so a cool thing about the article is that not only does it break down all of this bit by bit, but it also has this image of this cat and different scenarios where you could kind of go in and play with the code a little bit. And then when you do, like, you can pretty much end up breaking the image a little bit and then just see how the little manipulations that you do cause big changes to the image. So I thought that was pretty fun to go in and just kind of play and mess around. Like right now, I had this. You see this picture of a cat, and I'm just deleting big chunks of it. And what I do, like, it starts to band a little bit. And if you like put in the wrong code, it gives you also examples that you can click on. Just by doing a simple click or removing or moving a number, it kind of distorts the whole image. And so it's super interesting. I don't know if the regular person wants to spend time learning all about the JPEG and how it breaks up and everything, but I figured it's just like a fun read. You get to learn more about kind of these images that we use every day. And I don't know, maybe if you know a little bit more about code, you can figure out how to hack in to some of these images or something and put in your own code. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting. And so it's a two-parter, I guess. One is talking about the Parametric Press digital publication site, and the other one is this article that they did. So Terry, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, actually, it reminded me on all the episodes from The Big Bang Theory.
Yeah. Yep. Where it's like somebody getting really into like the science of it, and you're like, we're like the penny in this situation.
Yeah, the coding and everything. That's pretty cool, though. I mean, just an RGB's like, I look at the code and everything's like, oh my god, I'll stick on this side of the fence right now,
Yeah, to think of just the complexity that goes into digitizing your images just seems nuts to me. Like, whoa, I didn't realize that you can go that into the weeds,
Remember, Adam will have another link at the bottom of the show notes. It is a cheat sheet. I'm not going to say what it is, but go to it because it's going to help with your UI. So, Adam, I'm done here. Anything else for you?
Nope, I'm done for the week. Terry, where can we find you on the internet this week?
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter. My handle name is Flaxenink, FLAXENINNK. That's it. What about you? Where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Adan Cepeda. That's AdanZepeda. And you could also find me on Instagram at adanz.design. And if you add me, I'll be very grateful. So I guess that's it for this. That's it for us this week. I was lisping or something right there. Also, if you want to send us any comments, send your comments, questions, concerns, anything to ramblingsofdesignerpod@gmail.com. That's also in the show notes, or find us on the internet. And that's it for us this week. We will see you all next week.
Okay, aloha. Bye.
Bye.